Hello and welcome to the 16th Insight of the Baselight Beginner video series. In this insight, we're going to be talking about how to review grades with clients. And to do this, we're going to talk about cursors. Cursors are an essential part of Baselight, and we're going to talk about how to create them, how to modify them, and how to use them between scenes to review grades. I've mocked up 4 timelines with 4 different grades, and in this example, I'm going to pretend that a director is coming in to review all of these grades, and we're going to use cursors to do it. Let's jump into it. So as you can see, I've got 3 shots in this timeline, and I've got a simple balance grade applied to each of these shots. If I open up the job manager with Control J, you can see that this is my first timeline, my grade 1 timeline, but I've created 3 other timelines with a variety of very intense grades. We're going to compare and contrast these timelines with a pretend director to simulate a real-life grade review session. For now though, I'm going to close this grade 2 timeline, close the job manager, and let's talk about cursors. So first of all, what is a cursor in Baselight? Well, you can see that we have a cursor menu in the left-hand side of our UI here, and you can see our cursor in our timeline view, which we can click and scroll through our clips. The cursor is not just a simple timeline scrubbing tool in Baselight. The cursor is a really powerful tool because each cursor that we create has a unique set of options that affects our image display. Looking at the cursor menu, you can see that we have 1 active cursor, and we have a raft of viewing options that we can associate with this cursor. We have our viewing format, which is the resolution that we're viewing our footage in. And also you can see, very importantly, we have our viewing color space, which we covered in previous insights. The viewing color space should match the output of your display. You can also see I have a full area guide applied to my shot, which is this white border around my image display. If you don't see this guide option, you can go ahead and click on the disclosure triangle on the top left of the menu. Clicking on the disclosure triangle will give you a raft of other options that you can add to your image display. So for example, if I wanted to add a 239:1 mask, I could go ahead and add that here. And you can see that we've successfully added a 239:1 mask using our cursor. We can create more than 1 cursor in our scene, and all of these cursors can have different settings. So if I go ahead and scroll this back to our first frame, to create a new cursor, I'm going to hit Command 2, and that creates my second cursor. To create more, it's sequential, so I can hit Command 3, Command 4, Command 5, and you can see that I'm creating cursors as I go. To remove these cursors, it's the same shortcut key. So to remove cursor 5, I hit Command 5, Command 4, Command 3, and that deletes my 4th and 3rd cursor respectively. So now I'm just left with cursor 1 and cursor 2. If I scroll through this in the timeline at the moment, you can see that the cursor 1 and the cursor 2 stick together. And that's because this gang key is enabled. If I click on this and continue dragging my cursor 1, you can see as my cursor 1 drags, my cursor 2 stays static on the timeline. I can jump to my cursor 2 by just pressing the keyboard shortcut 2 on the keyboard. You can tell which cursor is active because the number jumps up to the top bar. If I click the number 1 key on the keyboard, you can see that this cursor jumps up to be the active cursor. Now that these 2 are in different positions, if I hit the gang key, the keyboard shortcut for gang is Command 0. And if I move this cursor, you can see that even though my 2 cursors are in different positions now, they are locked together. To remove my cursor 2, I'm going to hit Command 2, and that will leave me with 1 active cursor. I'm going to go down to my mask and just remove my mask here, and I'm going to remove the mask option by hovering over the mask. You should see a red line appear, and you can just left click to clear. Fantastic. There's some really great uses for having multiple cursors within one scene, but in this example, we're going to experiment with having cursors over multiple scenes. And this will be really useful for us as we review our grades, which are spread across these multiple scenes here. If I open up the job manager with Control J, and open up my grade 2 scene and close the job manager. As I open the second scene, a second cursor was created automatically. I can go up to the top right hand side of the display and I can see all my open scenes, and I can also see all of my cursors that are open on those different scenes. So if I click on my first open scene here, this is my cursor 1, and if I jump to my second scene, this is my cursor 2. Now this grade timeline has quite an intense grade associated with it, and if we wanted to compare this grade with the first grade that we did on our first timeline, what's the easiest way to do it? These 2 timelines contain exactly the same edit, So if I jump between these two cursors using the keyboard shortcut 1 and keyboard shortcut 2, I can compare and contrast the grades like this. When we have multiple cursors like this, we can actually display both cursors onto the image display using a split screen or a wipe function. I'm just going to navigate back to the first frame using Z, and on the keyboard I'm going to hit Function F2. Now we have two images on the image display. We have our cursor 1 on the left hand side and our cursor 2 on the right hand side. This light blue box around this image indicates the active cursor, so we're currently selecting cursor 1. If we press the keyboard shortcut 2, it'll jump us to our second cursor, and you can see that this cursor is highlighted with the blue box. Because these cursors are ganged, if I hit spacebar to play, you can see that this now plays back in real time two grades side by side. In our hypothetical director reviewing situation, this would be a really good way to preview grade A or grade B. If we wanted to create a wipe between these two images, we can do that with Function Command F2. Function Command F2 gives you a wipe that you can control on the image display using the left mouse button, and we can rotate this wipe by clicking and dragging around its center point. This can also be a very useful way to compare grades. To go back full screen to your active cursor, the keyboard shortcut is Function F1. I'm going to jump back to cursor 1 with the 1 key on the keyboard. I'm going to jump back to the first frame. So what happens if I have 3 or 4 grades that I want to show to the director? Let's open up more timelines and have a look. So I'm going to open up my job manager with Control J, and you can see I've got a grade 3 timeline here and a grade 4 timeline here. I'm going to close the job manager and click on the top right hand side to see my open scenes. As per the cursor reference on the left hand side, we have 4 active cursors now. As we've already discussed, Function F1 is full screen on your active cursor. Function F2 is a split screen. Function Command F2 is a split screen wipe. But if I want to preview 4 images at once, I can hit Command F4, and I'll drag down my cuts view a little bit. So Function F4 gives us a 4-way split screen, and again I can hit spacebar on this, and we are now playing back all of our different grade options in real time. If we hit Function F5, you can see it gives us a 6-way split, and Function F6, it gives us a 9-way split. So that's it for this insight. I hope that was a really good introduction to cursors. Cursors can be used for so much more than this, but this is a good intro, and I hope that's been useful. For MixingLight.com, I'm Luke Ross.